Welcome back to the Contrarian, everybody. I hope you're all doing well. I'm doing well today. Today is actually Saturday, January 18th that I'm recording this video, and I'm recording it because on Monday, the 20th, is Donald Trump's inauguration. He'll become the 47th President of the United States, as well as being the 45th President. But the question I'll really attempt to answer today, and the case that I'll try to make, essentially, is that in my opinion, assets across the board, pretty much, stocks, bonds, precious metals, pretty much everything. There's a few exceptions, but I would say most assets, in my opinion, are set up to do pretty well after Trump is inaugurated, and it could usher in kind of an immediate rally or a boost in these underlying assets right after he's inaugurated and he starts his second term. So I'll really lay this out why I kind of see this setup in place right now. Of course, with a video like this, I need to make it clear that I'm not providing financial advice for anybody out there. This is just a setup that I see as likely, but it's definitely not something I would try to trade on or that I'm recommending for anybody in particular. So without providing any sort of personalized financial advice or things like that, I just want to separate my own opinions from something like that. So, whatever you end up doing with this is totally up to you. But I really do see a setup right now that could kick off kind of an immediate rally right after his inauguration. And there's a few reasons why I see this. So, first off, essentially you would have the market begin to price in changes in terms of policy that Trump is doing. And I do think that it's likely that once he does get in, there will be just a massive amount of executive orders that he puts into place. That's not a judgment call on my part. I'm not saying that that's a good thing that he kind of floods, the White House with executive orders in the first week, but I do see that as likely that he does do that. And there's a few reasons why. I mean, Biden did issue a lot of executive orders when he first came in. I think Trump really wants to undo a lot of those and probably issue quite a few more of his own. He's really talked about this, kind of how he will hit the ground running from day one. So I do think it's likely that he issues a lot of executive orders when he does get in. And I do see this as being pretty significant for the market once the market begins to price in these massive changes, or potentially massive. Some of them might not really pertain to assets that much, but some of them definitely will. And I do see that setup where with a lot of these executive orders that he will be signing, on day one or at least in the first week, I do see that as having massive rippling effects throughout the market. And the market will then be doing what it does best and essentially trying to price out into the future what these executive orders really mean, and therefore reflect that in the current price of these assets, whether it be bonds and interest rates or whether it be the stock market and things like that. So number one I would just list is the executive orders that he will be very likely to do. Also, kind of building on that, you have the fear of missing out kind of mentality that has been so ingrained into the markets in the last several years. And I think that is, for better or for worse, something that can really kind of take a smaller trend or smaller change that takes place immediately after he starts his term, and it can kind of amplify it beyond what would be a reasonable expectation. So, for example, should he come in and issue executive orders regarding, allowing more drilling to go on for oil and gas, I think that actually pretty quickly could cause oil and gas prices to drop. Even though Trump really hasn't increased the supply of oil, hardly at all with just the stroke of a pen, the market is going to be taking that out 6 months into the future and trying to price in, okay, if oil and gas development is suddenly substantially easier to do, how much supply will there be in 6 months? And therefore, how much of a premium do we assign to oil right now? And so I think there's definitely the potential for a fear of missing out kind of mentality or momentum to build on itself pretty much right after the inauguration. Um, and kind of to give some backdrop of where we are right now, of course, we did see asset prices, bonds, especially stocks and crypto and things like that. We saw these assets rally pretty dramatically right after the election, and then they actually almost came back to pre-election type levels. So it was kind of a temporary spike that we saw as a result of the election. And so, where we are right now is we've seen the dollar spike pretty dramatically. We've seen interest rates spike fairly dramatically after the election. And in my opinion, that is likely why we've seen the stock market pretty much consolidate for the last 2 months. We've seen gold and silver consolidate as well. In my opinion, once you do kind of get a reversal of these two main trends of the dollar spiking and interest rates spiking, that would essentially free up stocks and pretty much all other assets to perform well. So, there's a lot of other stocks or, assets I would say that I'm less certain on with regards to how they'll react after Trump's inauguration. Of course, crypto was very tied in with his campaign, and so when he won, crypto did very well, at least in the month of November. And since then, it's seen a consolidation as well. I would say crypto is a market I'm not as certain on with regards to how exactly it will react once he is in office, because there are certain, I will say, hopes that the crypto community has surrounding Trump that he may or may not do. So a lot of it does depend on what he does. Best case scenario for Bitcoin would be that Trump actually does, initiate some kind of strategic Bitcoin reserve. I don't know what kind of probability I would assign to that. I personally see that as being very unlikely for him to do. But should something like that happen, of course, crypto would perform very well. But it's something that I just don't follow as much or really quite know how to, for example, put a likelihood on that. So there's some less certain kind of markets in my mind as a result of the election and as a result of the inauguration coming up. But crypto could potentially perform very well. It's just, I would say, dependent on a lot of specific things that Trump may or may not do. However, I do really see just a lot of upside potential from here in the short term, kind of speaking about his executive orders, fear of missing out, building on itself, just people, not wanting to miss out on some pretty exceptional returns that may happen in the stock market and in bonds. I mean, if you see interest rates come down, if you see inflation expectations come down, if you see the economy maybe slow down a little bit and suddenly people realize, oh wow, bonds could be a good investment right now given how high interest rates are on the bonds, given how we expect inflation to actually come in lower. Bonds could perform really well too. So, and maybe as a result of that, you could see real estate actually lift its head a little bit for the first time in 3 or 4 years. I mean, it has been a long kind of a bear market for real estate with just how high rates have gone on mortgage bonds and everything like that. I mean, you could see real estate lift its head a little bit, in my opinion, even if the economy slows a little. I mean, if you have mortgage rates coming down, that would initiate, in my opinion, some kind of pent up demand there for people to buy houses. And so real estate might actually be kind of an unexpected beneficiary of Trump coming in. So I would love to know what all of you think about this. Everything I've said about why I do see this kind of a setup for stocks and bonds, pretty much most assets to perform very well kind of immediately after Trump starts his second term. I would love to know what all of you think about this, whether you agree or disagree with me. Let me know in the comments section below. And yeah, I hope you are all doing well. I wish you all the best going forward, and it's great to be in this new year. So Hope you all have a great day.